Hello everyone, I was really hoping to do this video outside, but it's been raining for the last few days and also plans to be raining for the next few ones, so I'm going to try and do the best video that I can inside. So a few months ago I reviewed the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3, which was my first phone gimbal, and overall I pretty much enjoyed it. There were two main problems with it that made that I didn't use it that much. The first one was the audio quality wasn't the best coming from my phone, and also the AI tracking really wasn't that great. But now that I have these new pieces of equipment, so I have the Hohem iSteady V2 that has built-in AI tracking, which is really cool, and also this wireless microphone from Comica. I actually have both of these problems solved. But what is even more interesting is that I end up using this setup even more for my video calls than to just take some videos in general. So I'm going to talk about all of this inside of this video, but let's get started by rolling the intro. For those of you who are new to this channel, I'm Bellemare-Alford, a young photographer and filmmaker on the journey to become better at this art. Let's get started by showing some of the footage I filmed using this gimbal. Okay, so while I'm heading back home, I wanted to quickly talk about my experience using this gimbal and if I like it or not. So overall, it does seem to do a pretty good job at stabilizing the shots, which is a pretty good thing. But it's also a little bit weird because even though it's really easy to use, it's really easy to open, to close, use the gestures for the AI to start, stop recording, turn the camera, all kinds of things like that. One thing I really have a hard time is switching between the different shooting modes. So there's 4 shooting modes, I think, but without the app, actually I never really figured out how to get it working using only the gimbal. So this is definitely a little bit of a disappointment. It might just be me, it might be super easy to do and I just didn't figure it out, but it's not a good sign that I couldn't figure it out, but it's definitely feasible. I guess I just had to look dumb complaining about how hard the modes are to change to then understand how they work. So I finally figured it out and it's actually not that hard at all. So if we come here and we long press on the record button and then press on the power button once, we go on the first mode, which is the default mode, which is pan tilt. So if I go up, it's gonna tilt the camera and then actually gonna pan around if I turn the handle here. So this is the default mode, the one that most people are probably gonna use most of the time. Then if we go here and we long press on the record button and press twice on the power button here, we're actually going to go in a second mode, which is lock for the tilt, so it's not going to go up and down, but it's going to pan around, so we can still pan around by turning this, and the faster we turn, the more it's going to be responsive. Then if we go in the third mode right here, we're actually going to long press, triple click on it, and we're going to go on lock mode. So this, whatever I do here, if I try turning or anything like that, it always keeps the camera exactly in the same initial angle. And finally, we have our last mode right here. Now if we long press on the record button and click 4 times on the power button, we're going to get inside of POV mode. So this is just going to follow whatever we're doing with the camera. So these are the 4 modes we can have, which is pretty similar to any other gimbal out there. There's also a few other modes inside of the camera app, so it's actually a pretty great camera app. So you have all your basic photo, video, and also time-lapse mode. But what is really cool inside of that app is actually that you have a pro mode. So you can go inside and you can customize everything. So you can customize the shutter speed, you can customize everything else. So this is actually really nice. You can do all of this inside of the camera app without having to use another pro camera app and have to pay for an extra app to get some more advanced settings. But like I talked about in some of my other videos, I'm using the default camera app on the Google Pixel 4a because that's pretty much the only one that works well for me. Because of the phone that doesn't have enough power to be able to use the full potential of the other apps. So that's a little bit of the advantage for me, and that's why I'm using the default camera app, even though the other camera apps have a little bit more options inside of them. Okay, so now let's talk about audio, because I think that's one thing that most people don't really understand why it's so useful, but it's 50% of your video. So if you don't have good audio, you're definitely gonna be having a problem. In a situation like right now where there's a lot of noise right beside because there's a road passing on the side, if I use the internal audio of the Google Pixel 4a, we're going to see it's actually pretty bad. And if I just start walking a little bit away, I'm not even sure you're going to hear me at all from the internal microphones of the Google Pixel 4a or pretty much any other smartphone you might be using when filming videos. So this is where my new product, my second product, comes in, and these are the Comica VDLive 10 microphones, and these are simply some wireless microphones that work with pretty much any device you have. So I'm going to put them on. Okay, so I took out the receiver right here, so all you have to do, because it's USB-C, there's also a version for Apple devices with a lightning port, is to plug it inside of your phone. Now if we go inside of the Google camera app, so I'm going to open it right here and we go on the video mode. I actually had a little problem because it wasn't working before, didn't really understand what was happening, but it should normally have a message that appears and says that the external microphone has been detected. Then you need to go in your setting and make sure that external microphone is actually on. So for me, yesterday when I was testing it, it was off, so it wasn't working. So now I can come here, I can put my phone back on the gimbal right here. Okay, so now all I have to do to get some better audio is take out one of these two microphones. There's actually two inside of the charging case, and I'm just gonna add right here a dead cat. This is basically just a thing that allows to cut out some noise of the wind. So if there was really windy outside right now, it would allow to get some better audio and not the annoying noise of the wind. But now if I put it on me right here, we're gonna switch the audio on the Google Pixel 4a using this external microphone. And if I start walking back, the audio should still be as good as it was when I was close. I could probably even go inside of the house right here, close the door, and you should still be able to hear me because it's using actually the same wireless technology than your Wi-Fi, but it has a technology to make sure that you don't get too much interference even if there's a lot of Wi-Fi spots around here. So overall, you should be getting much better audio using a little microphone like this. And I really like this because I can leave my phone right there. I can walk away, get some more interesting shots using my phone and this gimbal without having to be always very close to the microphone of my phone to get some good audio. So I think it's definitely very interesting to get something like this little microphone if you want to be getting some better audio out of your phone, if you plan on using your phone a lot to be making some videos. Okay, so while the sun is out, I wanted to do a quick little vlogging example because I definitely think this is going to be one of the use cases of using both of these devices together or even separate. And right now I have the AI tracking, so if I move around the cell phone right here, the camera should follow me pretty nicely and I always keep my head more or less centered. I know I'm going to be cropped in quite a lot. That's because I'm using the Google camera app on my Google Pixel 4a and there's no wide angle lens. It would be much better if I could have a wide angle lens to be able to do this example and get more inside of the shot, but I don't have that, so I'm using what I can do right now. But we're still getting the good video quality from the rear camera, which is pretty great because that's definitely one of my problems, is using the front camera when filming these types of video. The audio also should be pretty good using the wireless microphone right now. I hope there's no interference or things like that, but normally it should work just fine. Okay, so I actually filmed this part yesterday, but I forgot to put my microphone on, so I didn't have any audio when I got to edit this part of this video. But another use case why I really like using this little setup is actually to make some video calls, and this one was a little bit surprising. But the reason why this is so great is that if I have it on a table like I have right now, I can simply use a gesture and it's going to start recording me like it is doing right now. And now if I move around or things like that, I can concentrate on the call and not think too much about is my face in the frame or not. Another really great thing using this is actually that I can put the camera down and not have to hold it all the time. I used to get a little bit some problems in my arms. They were sore after a certain time if I had to hold the phone for like half an hour, 2 hours when making a video call. So being able to just put it down on the table and not think about it afterwards is actually pretty great. But it's also really great if I take it up here and I start walking around. I can actually show you around and it's always going to track my face, so I don't have to be looking all the time and adjusting the phone to make sure that I'm inside of the frame. But what is even better is that now if I stop it right here, and now if we're using the rear camera, so usually when I'm in a video app, I can actually do that automatically. I can super easily point stuff out to people. And if I start turning around the camera here, it's super smooth and it actually makes it really easy when watching the video. So it's not something that is gonna make people sick if you're going around and showing around things like that. So that's actually pretty useful if you wanna have some video calls that are higher quality. So this is definitely an unexpected but very welcome use case for using this little gimbal and also this microphone. Okay, so definitely have to geek out about the AI tracking of this gimbal because it is so good. So first of all, you want to make sure that just like any other gimbal, the camera is nice and stabilized on the gimbal, and we're going to power it on, and you're going to see it's super easy to get the AI tracking going. So I'm going to start recording right away with the front-facing camera on my phone, but now we're going to enable the tracking mode inside of the gimbal, and this is very important. It's built in inside of the gimbal, so it has a wide-angle view camera, so it can really track better than if it's using your phone to do the tracking. So now we're going to go inside of here. Actually, I was filming the back here, so I'm going to just start filming in the front. We're going to go on the top here. There's a little button, so we're going to press the button here. We're going to see that a light is going to come on, and it's going to be red, then it's going to flash one time, so we're just going to wait for the flash, and now it's ready to track. So all you have to do to track is simply make this motion with your hand, and right away we see that the light is green, so now it's tracking me. So now if I come and I start walking back here, I can actually just walk back, and you can see it's following me perfectly. And that's one of the problems I had with the other AI trackings that I tried on the DJI Pocket 2 or the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3, is that it wasn't always very reliable as a tracking. But here, even if I try tricking it, so going down behind the table or things like that, it always follows me. And it's also a very natural and very good looking track, just like if somebody else was actually operating the camera. Not just like an AI, because it's not very janky or anything like that. So it's a very good track in the end. And really, I tried fooling it multiple times and it never misses in the end. So that's very impressive, the technology that they got inside of this one. But I think there's another thing that is even better. So I'm just going to stop recording here. Then I'm going to close the gimbal. And this cool thing is actually that we can flip around now the camera and use the rear-facing camera. So like I said in multiple episodes, you're much better to use your rear-facing camera because it has much better video quality. But most of the time, if the tracking isn't good, you cannot really trust it to be doing a good job in the end. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about what makes this whole setup with the Comica VDLive 10 microphones so useful. So first of all, this is a charging case. So once you open it up, you're gonna have your microphones that are gonna be right here, which is very useful. And this is gonna light up in just in a second and show us that all the batteries are full right now. Talking of batteries, they each have about 60 to 90 minutes of record time. So that's the time when you're recording audio using them. But if they're only in standby, they get a full 4 hours of battery life. And also, if you want to be charging them, it takes about 2 hours inside of the case, which is a little bit long. But as long as you're putting them back regularly inside of the case, it shouldn't be a problem in more situations. But if you're doing a full day shoot, maybe these are not the best wireless microphones for you. Up to now, I had no problems at all using them. There's no problems with interference or anything like that. So that's pretty great. But now if we take out right here the receiver, we're going to look at the side right here. We're going to see that there's a button to turn it on or off. So if we turn it on, the little screen right here is going to turn on and show us that we're open. And on the side right here, we have a button that has M and S, and this is basically if you want to have a mono or stereo file in the end. Mono is going to take the input of the two microphones and put them together. If you take the stereo option, it's actually going to record one of the microphone on one of the channels and the second microphone on the second channel. So this is very useful if you want to be able to edit both of these channels afterwards, so both of the microphones separately afterwards. And another thing that's really great with this little receiver is actually that it's going to work with pretty much any other devices. So just like I showed earlier, you can simply plug it in using the USB-C inside of here. But I also thought about different other ways of using it. So first of all, you can take the hot shoe mount right here and put it on top of your camera just like you would with most microphones. And they also gave a cable here to be able to plug it inside of your camera and get that recording directly inside of a 3.5mm jack like we're used to doing. But it's even better than that. They also come with this little adapter here where it changes from USB-C to USB-A. So if you have an older computer, you can actually plug this in into your older computer and also record there. Now, if we look at one of the microphones right here, again, we just take them out and they're all magnetic inside of the case, so they're super easy to take on and off. So we have a built-in microphone at the top here, but if we wanted, we could also plug in our own little microphone at the bottom. So that's what I'm doing right now. I have a wireless microphone with a lav, so we could do this with these microphones too, so these transmitter. But if you come to the side here, we also have an option right here for simplex or duplex modes, and this is why this system is so special. So if we put it on simplex mode and we start recording, this is just going to act as a normal microphone. If we decided to plug in a microphone at the bottom here, it would in simplex mode use that microphone instead of using the built-in one. But now there's also another neat little feature here. So if we switch into duplex mode, and I think these are the only microphones that actually offer this, now if we put some headphones inside of here, you can actually monitor the sound directly from this little device. So I can hear that the audio is sounding pretty good right now. And this is very useful if you're outside and you need to check quickly that your own audio is working properly or not. So somebody like me that films myself, is actually very useful to have these little microphones that you can check the audio by yourself to be sure that your audio actually sounds good without having to go to the camera and check on the camera that the audio recording is okay. Then on the side here, there's another little option here. So we're going to be able to press on it to change how loud the microphone is. So this is the gain of the microphone. So if we click on it, we're going to have different volume levels that are going to appear here. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the volume. So we can decide how loud we want our microphone to be. I found that for my setup, 4 seems to be the best setting. So yeah, overall, they're very versatile. You can really use them pretty much in any situation as plug and play microphones. You can even like monitor your audio by using your own headphones. So it really makes a nice little set for these wireless microphones. Okay, so now I'm still using the Comica Wireless Microphone, and it's actually pretty noisy. There's a truck passing right by. So this is going to be a great test to see how well it works. But what I really wanted to talk about is the differences between these two and which one you should buy in the end. So the first really big point of the Hohem iSteady V2 is actually the size. So it is so small in the hand when it's all closed off. So even when I had the handle right here, it's not very big. It actually like fits inside of a hand. Where the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3 is actually a lot bigger, especially when you add the legs. It's hard to put in your backpacks or things like that. So this is definitely a huge plus for the Hohem. If we look at other features, most of them have very similar features. So they have both very similar modes for shooting. They also have about the same battery life. They have pretty much everything else that is very similar between the two. Where the difference comes is when you need to be using the apps or using the AI. So the built-in AI inside of the Hohem iSteady V2 is a great feature and really works well. We had more problems using the AI when using the app on the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3. So if you need to be filming yourself, it's definitely better to go with the Hohem because you can be able to use the AI and get much better shots in the end using this one. Another pretty big advantage of the Hohem iSteady 2 is actually the camera app, where you have way more settings than the one inside of the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3. So that's a big one if you want to be able to use manual shutter speeds or things like that. So that's definitely a pro thing inside of the Hohem iSteady 2. One advantage of the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3 is the motors. They're much stronger and they seem to work a lot better. And just overall, when you take out this Zhiyun Smooth-Q3, you can start shooting right away without having to tweak anything, and it feels really good. It feels responsive. It really does whatever you're trying to do without having to think about it too much. The Hohem iSteady V2, instead, I actually had to go inside of the settings of the app. It's a great thing because you really have the control of everything, but I had to customize pretty much everything to get follow and tracking that actually worked as I wanted, with like the smoothness and everything to the settings I like. With the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3, I never played with any settings and it just works great out of the box. They're also a little bit different in terms of price. So the Zhiyun Smooth-Q3 is less expensive, but I definitely think that the $40 more to get the Hohem iSteady 2 is great if you're filming yourself and you're going to be using things like the AI tracking, or if the size is important. That's a very important thing for me. So in that case, I think this is a great choice. So there's one last feature I forgot to mention on the Hohem iSteady V2, and it's this integrated light, which can be pretty useful, especially when I'm making my video calls later at night. I must say that I was pretty impressed overall with the performance of the Hohem iSteady 2, especially the AI tracking, which is very good. And I was also pretty impressed with the audio quality from the Comica Wireless Microphones. They're half the price of the Rode Wireless Go, and they even offer more versatility. So it's a great option if you want to get some wireless microphone, but you don't want to pay a lot of money for them. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting the like button below, and definitely subscribe for more content on photography and filmmaking. See you in the next one.